Rising ground, folks. Got another video. I'm at a daycare. The complaint was the first floor zone wasn't heating up. I'm not sure what the air handler is as far as the brand, but this thing looks like it's at least 10 to 12 years old. And what's interesting here, sorry for moving the camera around, I'm trying to position this thing here. But at some point it was a hydro coil here. Hydro coil essentially means it was an air handler and a water coil piped to a boiler, which is there, and that boiler is decommissioned. It's not hooked up. Me personally, I would have kept it how it was, but they wanted to rip that out and put in an air handler and heat pump to get them AC. So here's what we have today. Customer complained that the air handler was just blowing cold air. So essentially what we came here to do, and this is what I'm going to show you guys, how we diagnose air handlers and heat pumps. And by the way, that's what you have outside. You know, the heat pump, the thing outside, that's your primary heat source. But if something happens to the heat pump, the backup heat, in this case, is the electric heat or auxiliary heat. This is what's supposed to turn on to heat the house up until the heat pump outside turns back on. So in this case, the thermostat was turned to heat and cranked all the way up, and it just wasn't maintaining the temperature. And always, sorry for adjusting this camera here, I'm just trying to position. I only got one hand to work with here. Always start from R to C to make sure your transformer and everything is okay. That's how I like to start diagnosing. And especially with these air handlers. Another thing you want to do is check for amps. I could test this from further back, but this is essentially checking the total amp draw of this air handler. I mean, the total amp draw of the electric heat, which is essentially the electric heat kit and a blower. And I'm getting 40 amps, so this is essentially telling me that the electric heat is running, but unfortunately, in this particular setup, the electric heat isn't enough alone to heat the home up. You need that heat pump running. And unfortunately, I went outside just now and that heat pump is flat on charge. So that either it's a leak in the system, I don't know what the history is or what the backstory is, but essentially they didn't have AC. Even though it was hooked up, the system was flat on charge. But what you guys need to know with heat pumps, if you have an issue with your heat pump, and this electric heat kit runs, this may heat the home up, depends on how the unit is set up. But if this electric heat kit runs all the time, your electric bills are going to be sky high. That's why, folks, we always recommend customers with heat pumps get these units looked at in the summertime, because if you wait until the winter and you have AC problems, now guess what? It's going to be that much harder to diagnose, because you're dealing with 30-degree temperatures, and also you're going to have high electric bills. But unfortunately here, I had 0 volts as well between R and W2, so this thermostat wasn't even turning on my electric heat. The only reason I have it's running now is because I have the electric heat wires jumped out at the thermostat. And the wires, by the way guys, the wires are matched up, so the thermostat is matched up correctly. But you see here between R and W2, it's actually, I got to jump that upstairs. I just wanted to make sure that thermostat, I just wanted to isolate the wires from the thermostat. In a nutshell, if I were to bypass the wires and it still didn't work, that would tell me that there's an issue with my circuit board. But in this case, since I jumped out the wires and it worked, then something's going on with that thermostat. But I'm going to let the customer know that the thermostat is definitely the least of their concerns. Right now, even if we replace that thermostat, I'm only getting 80 degrees, 82 degrees coming out the vents. And 82 degrees coming out the vents, guys, you'll be lucky to get a home, let alone a daycare on the first floor. You'll be lucky to get this above 68 degrees. It's not even going to be that warm upstairs. So always, you want to make sure that independently your electric heat works by checking and make sure the thermostat is calling and checking for amps. And also you want to go outside, make sure your heat pump is functioning fine, because These two systems, even though this one is considered one unit, but your electric heat kit and your heat pump is made to work in tandem. Whenever one works independently from the other, you're gonna have problems, and that's why I'm out here today. So there you guys have it. It's just a quick diagnosis. I got to give me a GoPro camera because right now I only have one hand. It's a lot of fidgeting around, but yeah, this is essentially how we diagnose the air handler. And the most important tip for customers to take away is that if that thermostat runs on electric heat too often, you might want to place a service call to have someone come out to make sure your heat pump is working fine. Because if it's not, you won't know in the summertime, because your heat pump can probably cool in the summertime, but if it's not thoroughly properly checked out in the summer, even on the maintenance, then guess what, when it's real cold outside and that heat pump breaks down, then, unfortunately it's going to be limited things that we can do until the weather gets a little bit warmer. So there you guys have it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.